ほら、ルフィ、今一緒に海賊になる仲間を探してるんだ。
Hello guys, welcome to my channel The Wandering Zoro, your go-to destination for anime-related content. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. In today's video, we're going to be diving into part 2 of the series What If Deku Had Awakened Strongest Psychic Quirk. So be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. Tamashiro stared at the man with a look of confusion and annoyance. He looked like a male version of his idol, and yet, he could not comprehend the situation. Why was this man scolding him? He was just trying to protect what he thought was important, what he thought was special, his reputation as Shiketsu's strongest student. As if I would listen to some random adult's orders. Now if you don't mind, I need to teach Koda a lesson. Yeah, nice try, you little gremlin. You know, you may be a hero in training, but all of those prospects could disappear if I just so happened to tell the police what happened. You would seriously rat me out? Me? A hero in training, don't be an idiot. Who do you think the police would listen to? Me? A hero in training? Or you, just a weak and helpless civilian? These particular words struck a chord within Izuku's mind. Sure, he could tell the police about this, but without any evidence, there'd be no way they would take him seriously. It was a shame Tsukauchi retired. He could have been helpful in this situation. Tell me something. Your last name, your hair, your facial features. They look identical to Green Empress. You a relative or something? Or are you just some fan trying to be her? Okay, first of all, I'm her brother. Second, that's a gross assumption. Why would anyone even try to look like her willingly? You dare insult the #1 hero like that? She's the strongest hero to ever live, the bravest and most popular hero of all time. Geez, did I really act like that when I was a teenager? Talk about an embarrassing reminder. Izuku thought to himself. Tamashiro broke out of his annoyed state before scoffing. You may be her brother, but you don't hold a candle of strength compared to her. You're a weakling, unlike me. So it's time I remind you about the pecking order between us. Flinging towards Izuku, one of Tamashiro's binging balls zooms into the man's stomach, causing him to spit out a large amount of saliva. What the hell? Where did that thing come from? Take this, Tamashiro yells out. He attempts to hit the man from all sides, with 3 binging balls zooming from the top, left, and right, while Tamashiro attacks from the front. However, when he does land the strike, he is surprised to see his attacks not hitting him. Instead, being met with a barrier Izuku had made. Okay, that was a close one. Kid, you better cut this out before you do some serious damage. What? But how? Kid, whatever these balls are, they are starting to get annoying, so cut it out. But Tamashiro sped away from him, using his binging ball as footing to allow him to move at super fast speeds. What the hell? Does this kid really think such movements will help him? Geez, all this trouble just to stop one kid. What a drag. Tamashiro continued to speed around him, eventually stopping at a far enough distance before shooting a barrage of binging ball towards him. Though, this proved rather ineffective, as most of them were deflected or destroyed thanks to Izuku's barrier. What's wrong? Is the great brother of Green Empress not going to fight back? How stupid are you? He says as he sends out more binging ball. Do you think some stupid barrier proves your superiority to me? I am Tamashiro, #1 student of Shiketsu High, and the soon-to-be #1 hero. I'm special, and I'm better than others, especially yo. Will you shut up already? Who cares if you have powers? That doesn't make you special. It just means you're like the other 85% of the population. Normal. People like you that give those who are actually trying to help people a bad name. As much as I hate to admit it, even Izumi is better than you by comparison. At least she helps people in need. With an attitude like that, I doubt you would even be fit enough to be a sidekick. These words struck a chord in Tamashiro's mind. Sidekick? No, not even fit enough to be a sidekick? How insulting. His face grew angrier with each passing second, and like many victims of anger before him, a small amount of killing intent grew as well. How dare you insult me like that when your existence in this world is pointless compared to mine? Huh. In fact, I'm gonna wipe your pitiful existence from the face of this planet. His binging ball that circled around him grew dramatically in size and began to once more charge at Izuku. But unlike the other times before, Izuku's barrier was unable to counter it, and the binging ball blitzed into him, sending him flying into a light pole. How that's going to leave a mark, he thinks to himself. But the assault continues to escalate as more binging ball crash into him, sending him flying into the air and crashing into a couple of nearby buildings. So are you going to fight back now? What kind of adult would use their powers to fight a child? Izuku says in a weak voice. Besides, it's not like I know how to use them properly. Progress toward Izuku's explosion, 67%. Come on already. Show me your power. If you won't, you're going to end up dead. I won't use them. Fine, then let's see how much you can take with a little endurance test. He begins to create a large quantity of binging ball that begin to line up as if they are being used as artillery. Binging ball Gatling gun. The 50 or so binging ball begin to fire towards Izuku, with them concentrating their attack on his stomach and face. Come on, fight back, fight back. Izuku, while being hit by the binging ball, waved his hand up in an attempt to defend himself, accidentally knocking back one of the ball over the top of Tamashiro's head. What had just occurred in that moment would be an event that would haunt Tamashiro for the rest of his life. His binging ball has accidentally ate the hair on the top of his head. You did this on purpose, didn't you? Izuku had no idea what the kid was rambling on about, with his face ending up swollen as a result of the barrage of attacks. But Tamashiro would not react in the right headspace. His killing intent had finally taken over. You're dead, he said as thunder began to crack in the sky. Top of Tama's head, 0%. You're going to pay for this. I won't forgive you no matter what you say. Izuku, while still being blinded as a result of his swollen face, jumped back in pain, hitting the wall on accident, as both of his arms were suddenly consumed by two of his binging ball. Izuku screamed out violently in pain from having his arms consumed by the binging ball, before Tamashiro began to wrap his hands around his throat. Damn it, what is happening to me? Tamashiro thought to himself. Why did things turn out like this? This is all your fault. If only you hadn't shown up, maybe you would have still had your arms and would still be living your miserable existence, damn it. Izuku could feel his life slowly fading from his body. He was running out of time. But even if he wanted to use his powers to attack this boy, he couldn't. Something was stopping him from doing so. Or rather, something in his mind was stopping him from doing so. That's when it hit him. He was trying to reject these powers. He wanted to live life without having to use them, without having to acknowledge that he was now part of the 85% of the population. Because that's all he's ever known, life without having powers of his own. All that mistreatment in his youth, all that suffering he had to deal with on his own, it was basically for nothing now that he had these powers. Slowly, he began to feel his mind slipping away as a metaphorical percentage counter began to go up dramatically. 72%, 75%, 79%. It continued to go up, yet Izuku didn't even try to use his powers. Maybe somewhere deep in his subconscious, he believed this was for the best. At least he helped Kota and his friends before he died. At least he met Hanabi before he passed on to the next life. 81%, 84%, 87%, 92%. Just as the percentage counter continued to go up, it suddenly stopped. Izuku had lost complete consciousness and fell lifelessly onto the ground, startling the young boy. Hey Yagi. Wake up, hey, don't die, wait Yagi. He began to break down in horror at what he had done. He let his anger get the better of him, and because of that, he killed someone. An innocent man who was only trying to stop him from doing something stupid. His face began to have a depressed look as a result, as he merely stood over the man, feeling defeated, left to fill the void in his heart with a feeling of deep emptiness. Or so it seemed. Shooting brightly into the sky, a white pillar of light suddenly appeared where Izuku's body once was, before his body began to move on its own. His skin and hair had changed into a pitch-dark color, while his eyes beamed in a pure white color, no pupils or irises in sight. What the hell? What is that thing? No response came from the entity, only the cold and calculating stare of a malevolent spirit, angered by the actions of this young man. It lifted its stubbed arm up to his, flicking it in a motion which caused Tamashiro to be sent flying into the wall. He coughed up saliva as a result. The rubble from the resulting damage began to swirl around Izuku, all while the energy in the atmosphere began to be absorbed into him. What are you? What are you? But Tamashiro subconsciously knew what this thing was. Something that must never be touched. Something incomprehensible. Its identity, unknown. Tamashiro began to feel his body float in the air, as his sense of gravity was lost to him, all while the building around him also began to float up into the sky. "You're kidding me, what is this? What in the world have I awakened?" he yelled out in horror. The entity shot out a powerful green aura all across the area, while Tamashiro and the building began to fly further up into the sky. He screamed out violently, his mind unable to comprehend the situation. "That's enough, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. Please, I won't use my powers to hurt anyone anymore." He floated up into the sky until he passed the dark clouds above, seeing the sun above him. His mind was made clear as a result of the experience. He held no anger towards Izuku, not after what he had just done. He was in a total state of bliss. The building remains, and Tamashiro began to slowly descend to the ground, as the sky began to clear up and loud footsteps began to make themselves known. The source of these footsteps? Various costumed heroes and police officers surrounding Izuku, who was still consumed by the dark aura covering his body. "You there," a hero in shiny knight-like armor yells out. "For the illegal use of powers, assault, and the vast destruction of property, I am placing you under arrest." One particular hero stepped up towards Izuku, with green lightning surging all over her body as a result of her activating her quirk. Izumi Yagi had made her appearance known. "Please cooperate and stay still. You'll only cause more trouble if you decide to retaliate. I don't want to have to hurt you," she said to him. The entity began to dissipate its aura, revealing Izuku's face to the heroes and police. While many became confused by the reveal, Izumi, who was standing in front of the crowd of heroes and police, began to hold her breath in shock. "Shoot, I can't even open my mouth to speak." Izuku thought to himself. "What even happened? I thought I died just now. Wait, what are these people surrounding me, FO?" That's when he saw her standing a small distance from him. "Izumi. Oh man. Guess my 10 years of peace has finally come to an end. She's found me. Oh well, I'm way too tired to think about such a thing." Progress toward Izuku's explosion, 0%. He collapsed onto the ground, while the sounds of Izumi yelling and sirens began to blare out. Time passed in the blink of an eye for the world, while to Izuku, it only felt like a few short hours. He began to slowly open his eyes, the light disorienting him for a short period of time. But he was able to quickly adjust to the situation. "Where am I?" he softly said to himself. It was that he noticed that he was lying on a hospital bed, and his arms were restored. He sat up from bed, completely in awe at the revelation. "My arms, they're back. But how?" That's when he heard the door open. "You're awake? Well, that's pretty good," the doctor said to him. "We honestly thought you would be asleep for at least 2 weeks. "Huh? 2 weeks? Yep, you were sent here by the police almost 5 days ago. 5 days ago? How? When?" "Mr. Yagi, calm down." Izuku began to slightly breathe heavily, while the doctor began to divulge the situation. "Now, because of how long you were out for, you're going to need to have someone look after you for at least a couple of days." "Seriously?" "Look, as much as I think that would be nice, I'll be Finn," he said before falling to the ground. "With all due respect, you haven't been moving for days, and you've only just gotten your arms regenerated by Eri. So, I recommend that for this week that you be looked after by immediate family. Lucky for you, your sister volunteered to do the job." Izuku stared at the doctor for a short while, his face brandishing a perplexed expression before contorting in horror. "Huh?" Progress toward Izuku's explosion, 15%. Izuku felt no such gratitude for this action, only complete and utter annoyance. Today was the day his release. While many would be glad to leave the care of the hospital, our green-haired protagonist had a less than stellar reaction. The doctors described him as moody, often having trouble feeding him the hospital food as a result. But there was a reason for this behavior. It wasn't a matter of where he was being taken to, but whom he was being taken by. His sister, who he had not seen for over a decade, had discovered him after his altercation with Tamashiro and volunteered to look after him, just until he fully recovered. But even if it was only for a week, he wished he'd just recovered at a hospital. But he didn't have a choice. It didn't help that they had to sedate him to relax. When he awoke from his slumber, he was met with the sight of a strange environment before him. A small TV, a single-sized bed, and an open door beside him. "Huh, wait, am I at her house?" he shouted in annoyance. "Well, this is just great. Now I'm going to be in 6 days of hell before I can go back to my normal life." He grabbed the remote next to him, and began flipping from the various available channels, before settling on watching a show about an arrogant doctor with a cane who frequently insults his employees and acts like an idiot to his patients. Maybe watching TV could help time pass faster. Yeah, then I can leave this place as soon as possible. But if my stupid arms don't work as soon as possible, then I won't be able to leave. Who are you? A young male voice calls out. Izuku turned his head to see Kazui, who had been looking at him with a suspicious glare. I should be asking you that question. Pipsqueak. Pipsqueak, I'll have you know that I am the son of Green Empress and Lord Explosion Murder God Dynamite, Kazui Bakugo. So you're my nephew, huh? Great, and here I thought I wouldn't have to deal with a second hothead in my personal life. Yeah, right, as if a weakling like you could be my uncle. And as if I would accept a brat like you as my nephew. You dare call me a brat? The young man barks out. The young boy ran up towards the man, and an explosion ignited out of the palms of his hands and began hitting him in the arm, causing it to slightly bleed. Ow, what the hell? No one, but my mom calls me a brat. You hear? Did you seriously have to use your quirk on me? Vital fluid began to spurt out of his wound, with the young boy giving him a glare before someone began approaching the room. Casually, a young woman's voice called out. The man is trying to recover. Why would you hurt him? The young boy turned to see a 19-year-old Eri with a rather disappointed look on her face. Well, because he called me a brat. Casually. It doesn't matter what people call us. We shouldn't just hurt them because of it. Boo. No buts, casually. What would your sister think if she found out you hurt someone all because of a reason like that? She wouldn't like that. The boy said in a sulking tone. That's right. Now, I'd like you to go downstairs and watch some TV. I've got your favorite show on. Seriously? Hell yeah, the boy said while running off. I'm sorry about him, sir. It's nothing really. I expected that kind of attitude from the son of Katsuki Bakugo. Eri began to use her quirk on Izuku's wound, reversing the damage that was inflicted on him, with him noticing the sudden change. I take it based on your quirk, you're the one named Eri. That's right. Did the doctor mention me to you? Yeah, though I wanted to ask. Why do I need to stay here for a few days to have someone look after me while I recover the strength in my arms? Couldn't you just reverse the strength back into them? Well, my quirk has gotten weaker after that fight the heroes had with All for 112 years back. I see. Does that have to do with that damaged horn on your head? He said, pointing at it. Yeah, while I did return your arms to his previous state, I'm not able to completely heal its properties. So the hospital usually has patients I treat go through physical therapy to help the healing process. I see. Great, just my luck. If you don't mind me asking, do you really not like having to stay here with Big Sis Izumi? Big Sis Izumi? Geez, if you really want to say her name, at least get rid of the Big Sis part. Seriously, it makes me want to vomit. Izuku commented. If you must know, Izumi was a what's the appropriate word here? A rather angry cow. An angry cow? She said with shock. Yeah, all she ever did when we were younger was treat me like trash, all because I had no sort of superpower. Gave me the nickname Deku as a result. No, that's not right. Izumi would never do such a thing. After all, she's a hero. She's my hero. Word of advice, kid, don't always put your idols on a pedestal. They'll only just disappoint you once they don't live up to your expectations. Take this as a sign that my sister isn't as perfect as you think she is. Now, if you could, just leave me alone and let me watch my show. Eri began to leave the room, with her face contorting to an expression of sadness, while Izuku continued to watch the show. He had binged the series, to the point where he had accidentally gotten to the end third season. Seriously, that's how they're going to end it? When are they even going to release the next season? I don't want to go back to watching trashy reality TV. He laid on the bed, unsure as to what to do for the rest of the day besides watching TV. But he didn't want to rot his brain any more than he already had. So what else could he do then if that was the case? Sleep? Maybe, but he was too annoyed to sleep. All he could do was lay there. Time eventually passed, and Izuku lifted himself off the bed and headed to the kitchen, where he proceeded to try and move his arms the best he could to try and open the fridge. He gripped onto the door handle as tightly as he could, but no matter how hard he tried, he simply could not open the door. Damn it, he muttered to himself. Feeling defeated by this, he proceeded to lie on the couch, where he stared up at the ceiling, hearing the sounds of children laughing, though not in the joyous kind. Stupid Deku thinks he can be a hero? What a joke. One of the voices called out. What a freak, he doesn't even have a quirk, another shouted. The laughter and insults flooding into his mind would only stop once he heard the voice of his sister at a young age. Just give up, Deku. There's no way you could be a hero. The voice of his sister called out. Seriously, why did I have to remember that again? Does my own mind hate me now? He heard the door open slightly, and the sounds of footsteps coming closer to him. Eri, I've brought some lunch, thank you for looking after Kazui while I was on patrol. Without you, I was getting worried that he was going to destroy most of the house like last TI. That's when they made eye contact. The two siblings seeing each other for the second time in 10 years. Izuku was conflicted to say the least, while Izumi didn't know how to properly speak to him. Izuku, is that you? She approached closer to her brother, but noticed him sitting up quickly and moving away from her as she did so. Needless to say, she was saddened by this, but couldn't exactly argue with his decision. I'm just glad you're here. Brother. Gross. He thought to himself. Progress toward Izuku's explosion, 23%. The two siblings would soon convene over to the dining room, where Eri, who was sitting next to Izuku, began to offer her help in feeding the man to help lessen the stress in his arms, but was perplexed by his determination to eat on his own. So Izuku, I had heard from Jiru and Denki that you visited them while doing a job. Who? Oh, you must mean the Kaminaris. Yeah, they mentioned to me that they hired you to help them with their daughter's Quirk issue. And what of it? Well, when I heard just how professional you were with them, it made me feel glad that you were doing well. I was just doing my job. No need to get all mushy about it. But why would you care if I was doing good or not? Silence grew in the room between the three. Eri, who was in the middle of things, remained silent, wishing to not interfere with the conversation. Izuku, I know things between us are fractured. Fractured is a bit of an understatement. But in spite of that, I want things between us to heal. That is why, starting even after your recovery week, I want you to start living here with us. Progress toward Izuku's explosion, 41%. Huh. Izuku muttered with confusion. All Izumi did was stare at her brother with a determined gaze, while the latter, flabbergasted by this notion, began to refute. Hold on a second, you're sounding ridiculous. I have to go back to my home at some point. But this place can be your home. Given how spacious it is, it can basically accommodate around 20 people if we wanted to. Get real, I don't want to live in this fancy mansion, I just want to live out my days in that trash apartment I call a home. Izumi was silent for a moment before speaking up. Do you know how heartbreaking it was for me to see you like that when you were fighting that boy? Izuku, your arms had been chewed off your body by that boy's quirk. You were bleeding in ways no normal person should be. I don't want to see that happen to you. Then just don't have your eyes open when you do, you moron. Eri grew, rather worried at the escalating situation, causing her to slightly back away from the table. You know, I thought that when I didn't show up to your wedding years back, that you would understand the kind of message I was giving you. But it seems that even the #1 hero can be an idiot. After high school, I never wanted to see or hear from you ever again. Izuku, don't Izuku me. You and that monster of a husband made my life a living hell until you two went to UA. So why would I want to see or speak to you again? Izuku said out loud in anger. It was bad enough that Mom and Dad didn't really pay attention to me as a kid, but you two made me a living outcast in any school we went to. Izuku's heart was starting to beat more and more with each passing second. 45%, 51%, 60%. This was not good. He could feel himself slipping. He had to maintain his composure. Izumi, what you and Katsuki did those years back was something I wish to never experience again. So once my arms are healed up, I want to return to my old place and my old life. Now if you don't mind, I'm going to head back to sleep. Oh, and keep that demon you call a son away from me. He began to walk up the stairs, leaving Izumi to sit at the table with a rather sad expression on her face. Oh, and not that I have the qualifications to tell you how to raise your kids, but maybe pay some attention to your daughter. Huh. You know, the first time we ever met, she confessed to me of how worried she was that you and your husband would never love her because of your son's quirk. So maybe show her that you guys love her for who she is, rather than what she can bring to the table. While Izuku was walking up the stairs, Izumi began to contemplate the events that had taken place over the last year or so. Was it true? Was she and Katsuki not giving her the love she deserves? If Hanabi confessed to Izuku, someone who at that point was a mere stranger to her, then maybe she wasn't the mother she had thought she was. Perhaps things needed to change. I'm home, a young voice called out. Izumi turned her head to see her daughter walking in, wearing a salmon pink hoodie and a bright smile on her face. That was, until Izumi approached her daughter and gave her a rather big hug. Mom? Oh Hanabi, I'm sorry Katsuki, and I made you feel this way. Huh. I promise that no matter what, we will always love you with all of our heart. This seemingly confused the small girl for a short period of time, but was happy regardless, knowing that she could rely on her mother's love and support if things got bad. Upstairs, however, we see Izuku on his bed, watching the news on TV, with a bit of a disgruntled look on his face. Especially when this report came up. Takuda, I'm standing here in Hosa City, where a recent series of kidnappings have recently been taking place, as well as in Shinjuku and Narahata. The news reporter says to the TV, the targets recently taken appear to be those around the ages of 6 to 17. So for the time being, there will be a curfew put in place to prevent any further kidnappings. This can't be good, Izuku thought to himself. So far, there has been no evidence to suggest this was the work of any former villain group or any small gangs in the area. But as soon as more information comes out, more reports will come to the public. Izuku shut off the TV and began to lie on the bed with a bit of a complex expression on his face. If they're targeting children, I need to make sure Hanabi is prepared. He thought to himself, I need to step up as her uncle and mentor. Several days had passed since his initial talk with Izumi, and we see him making good on his promise to Hanabi by placing several empty cans on the table, while Hanabi proceeds to place her hands on 2 of them. Her quirk bomb transmutation allowed her to turn anything she touched into a bomb, so long as her quirk was active. Only problem was that she had limited practice with her quirk, with the explosions not being powerful in size or strength. Okay, try to explode those 2 cans at once. Got it. Yeah, Hanabi responded. She concentrated with all her might, before snapping her fingers, resulting in the explosion of one of the cans. But due to the nature of the assignment, Hanabi felt that she didn't do any good. Not again. Hey, it's all good. You're still a child. It's natural for your powers to be weak at first. Izuku told her. You should treat your quirk as if it is a muscle on your body. If you overwork it, it will only backfire on you. I know, I just wish it would be stronger. Well, don't worry. As long as you know how your quirk works, that's already half of the battle. I guess so. Hey, speaking of, why don't you train your quirk, uncle? Izuku hesitated to answer this question. Well, Hanabi, the reason I don't is because since I've spent most of my life without one, I just feel comfortable not using them. Do you not like your powers? I mean, I like them, sure. Who wouldn't want powers like these? But sometimes, I just kind of think with the way my life is now, powers like these are kind of pointless. Does that make sense? I think I get it. Okay, good. How about we continue for a little bit once you come back from school, and afterwards I'll help you out with your homework. Sound good? He asked her. Okay, uncle. Also, while you're at it, I have a fun assignment. Try to come up with some cool names for an ultimate move while at school. We'll look at them and vote on which one sounds cooler. Wait, really? Alright, I've got this. She began to get herself ready for school, while Eri stood outside, ready to walk her there. Bye, uncle. I'll be back soon, she said while waving. After the door closed, Izuku made sure Hanabi and Eri left his view before going over to the kitchen window. He waited at least 5 minutes before he began to slightly smile. For what reason he was going to do something that could, in fact, make him lose his life. Okay, Izumi is out doing hero work, and that little brat Kazui is heading to his friend's house. Aside from that, Katsuki is apparently coming home today based on what I've overheard. Which means I only have a few hours, he said with a grin. Weakly getting up the stairs, Izuku entered into Izumi's and Katsuki's room, where he took out what looked to be Katsuki's spare pair of home shoes, before he opened up a box of thumbtacks, pouring them into the shoes, while still maintaining a twisted grin. Made my life a living hell with my sister, and thought you couldn't get away with it, huh? Well, enjoy a bit of stabbing pain from yours truly, he muttered. Usually I wouldn't do something like this, but for you, that's an exception. He began to chuckle as the last thumbtack in the box was poured in, feeling a sense of glee in his mind at the thought of Katsuki crying in pain because of something as small as thumbtacks. But the door unlocking would suddenly interrupt his moment. Oh no, someone's here, he thought to himself. But who could it be? It couldn't Kazui or Hanabi, and it certainly couldn't be Izumi. So who could it be? He began to creep down the stairs, seeing 4 pairs of shoes left near the front door, all while hearing the sounds of familiar voices. Mitsuki, Masaru, Inko, and Toshinori had gotten back from their trip. You know, as much as I love the hotel we went to, nothing beats sleeping in your own home. Mitsuki comments. Yeah, it just doesn't feel right to sleep on a bed that's not your own. Inko added. Well, Toshinori and I had a great time. Got to enjoy some golf while we were there. Yeah, I never knew you played well in the sport. Oh, come on. No need to flatter me, Toshinori. No, I'm serious. Well, I have been playing since I was a kid. So I guess that's a fair call. By the way, did Katsuki get a pair of new shoes? Mitsuki asks Masaru. Not that I know of. Why? Well, there's a pair of shoes here I haven't seen before. They look like dress shoes. Huh. Katsuki's never owned a pair. All the ones we gave him were either exploded out of rage or lost. So then who are these? Izuku was sweating as he was directly behind the group of elderly people. It was a bad idea for him to come down, and he knew he had to get back to his guest room. So he began to carefully walk back up the stairs. But fate wasn't on his side at all, as after 3 steps, the stairs suddenly creaked, catching the four's attention. Izuku, Inko called out. Silence filled the room only momentarily as Izuku turned to face his parents. Hello, mother. Father. He answered. I see you're both doing well for yourselves. Progress toward Izuku's explosion, 50%. Yes. Izumi has been looking after us for a while now. Hold on, that's Izuku? Mitsuki asked in surprise. He's gotten quite tall. I could barely recognize him. Yeah, you said it, honey. Masaru added. How have you been, Izuku? Mitsuki asked him. I've been doing fine. Always have, always will. This is nothing more than a temporary stay. Temporary stay? Toshinori chirped up. I got in an accident, and Izumi volunteered to look after me until I fully recovered. I see. Inko responded. I'm sorry for troubling you. I was going to collect something, but there's no need to anymore. I'll be going to my room. While walking up to his room, Inko attempted to call out to him to stay, hoping to talk to him for the first time in 13 years since he left for high school. But Izuku didn't listen to his mother's sudden call to him, only continuing to make his way to his room to begin another TV show binge session. This time around, he was watching a show about a man who used his skills and observation to convince the police that he was a psychic detective, alongside his childhood friend Gus. But while he tried his best to watch the show, to which he had been doing so for 2 hours, his parents being here wasn't exactly helping his mood. He could feel his powers slowly getting stronger as a result of these negative emotions. 53%, 54%, 55%. Though it was slow, he couldn't help but worry about letting his powers show. He had to get a control of them before something bad would happen. Suddenly, a loud, sharp, screeching pain echoed throughout the house, breaking Izuku out of his sudden power-surging worry. He got out of his room and heard cursing from the inside of Izumi and Katsuki's room, to which he understood what exactly happened. Katsuki got home while he was watching his show, and his trap worked. HHHH, Katsuki cried out. Why in the world are there thumbtacks in my shoes? Izuku chuckled slightly at his, but then remembered he was going to probably die at his hand because of this. But he got his last laugh. He didn't care. Katsuki began to hop out of his room, his face red with anger, and veins starting to pop out of the side of his temple. There was no sign of reason in his eyes, only rage. If one of those kids were responsible for this, I'm going to show them why criminals fear me when they see me in the sky. His eyes locked onto Izuku, and Izuku did the same. They couldn't say a word to each other due to the intensity of the atmosphere. It didn't help that the two hadn't spoken for a long time to each other, regardless if the conversation was going to be friendly or hostile. Katsuki. Progress toward Izuku's explosion, 59%. Duh, Izuku. It's been a while. And yet you still nearly called me by that name. How flattering. Look, Izumi called me about your situation. Whatever help you need, just save it. I've nearly healed up. Once my recovery is complete, you, your parents, or mine won't have to deal with me again. Izuku, Katsuki, whatever you're planning to say, just don't. We both know whenever you talk, things only get worse between us. It happened when we were kids, it happened when we were in junior high, so I don't want it to happen now. So just leave me alone. However, such a thing would not happen, as Izuku was soon sitting at a large dining room table, with his parents and his brother-in-law, with a deck of cards in the middle. Okay, why am I here? He asked with a monotone voice. Well, Izuku, seeing as how you and your parents haven't talked in a long time, and considering my Katsuki is your brother-in-law, I figured the best course of action would be to do some family bonding. Mitsuki proposed. Family bonding? Seriously? And how exactly is a card game going to help with that? Well, it was the only game we had, since Katsuki used to blow them up all the time. Mother, Katsuki snarled. Now then, Masaru and I are going to get some lunch ready. You four just reconnect with each other. Izuku begrudgingly began to partake in the game of cards with his family and in-law. It was a classic game of Uno, in which, despite the competitive nature of it, did seem to at least calm him down, with even his progress towards explosion meter going down slightly. So Izuku, I hear you have your own business. Inko began. Oh, yeah, it's nothing special really. I go around, help people with some troubles they have with their quirks. Like I said, nothing special. I see. That must be quite exciting for you. Not really. Most of the cases I take are children having difficulty with controlling their quirks. Others are simply one-off cases. I remember this one guy thinking that his quirk was going out of control. But then it turned out the guy's quirk was going out of control because of an E.D toxin he had been taking. Still, I won't say that's the weirdest case I've had, but it was still pretty gross. Well, I'm just glad that you're making a living for yourself. Me too. Toshinori chimed in. It's nice to know that you're doing a career you're passionate about. You always have loved quirks and how they work, so it's nice to see those skills in good use. Izuku felt a bit of pain in his chest when he heard those words. What did his father and mother know? His dad was the one to crush his initial dreams of being a hero. Sure, he understood why he had to. From personal experience, why would All Might let someone like him needlessly risk his life to die at some villain's hands? But that didn't matter to Izuku. There were better ways to tell a child that a dream like being a hero wasn't something everyone needed to achieve, and his father just chose to end his talk quickly without even considering the boy's feelings. Izuku wanted to shout at him, wanted to simply explode his frustrations at his father away, as the progress towards explosion meter began to rise. What would you know? He muttered. Huh. Izuku, did you say something? Inko asked him. I said, what would you know? The doorbell suddenly rang, catching the four's attention, to which Toshinori got up from his chair and began to approach the door, opening it with his skinny arms. To his surprise, Sansa Tamakawa, while wearing his detective uniform, was standing with a somber look on his face. Sansa, All Might, it certainly has been a while. Yes. Please, come in. I'll make you something. No, it's fine. I'm actually here on official police business. Oh, really? So then why are you here? Look, I don't know how I can say this, but it's about your granddaughter. She's been taken. Sansa told them. Toshinori's eyes go wide upon the detective delivering this statement. What did you say? Earlier today, her and a couple of other children were taken by a group of individuals. Who they are, we have no idea. What we do know is that they refer to themselves by a villain group completely unheard of. Claw. Apparently, they were born from the remnants of the old Paranormal Liberation Front. They seem to be connected to a series of kidnappings in Hosu, Narahata, and Shinjuku. But this is the first time they took children from broad daylight and at a school. Wait, hold on. You're saying they attacked her school? Inko asked him. That's right, ma'am. But don't worry, we'll be doing everything in our power to find her and the others. We just need dynamite to get geared up. If you see Izumi, tell her to do the same. Right. After hearing the order from Sansa, Katsuki got ready in his hero costume and began exploding off into the sky, leaving the Yagi and Bakugo parents at the house alongside Izuku. Oh no, my granddaughter is missing, and there's nothing I can do. Inko began to sob. Inko, everything will be okay. Hanabi is rather brave for someone her age, and a tough cookie at that. I'm sure she'll do fine, Mitsuki told her. But while the grandparents were doing their best not to panic and remain calm, Izuku was feeling a sense of frustration in his mind. How could he just sit here and do nothing? After that feeling of anger and resentment towards his parents just moments ago, something sparked in him to take action. So he got to his room, changed into his cleanest suit, and began to walk out of the house. Izuku, where are you going? Inko called out. I'm going to go find her. Izuku, you can't get involved in this. Let the authorities and the heroes handle this. Someone out there kidnapped my niece, and you're expecting me not to do anything? Screw that, I'm finding her and getting her home. I don't care who stands in my way, or how many of them there are. I'm getting her back. He finished with a determined expression. Progress toward Izuku's explosion, 99.9%. Hours prior to Sansa's visit to the Yagi household, Hanabi, and various other children were enjoying their day at school through various different activities. Whether it was kicking a ball around, drawing on pieces of paper, or simply playing on the various play equipment. Hanabi, on the other hand, was on her own, gathering any small cans she could find on the ground and placing them on the ground in front of her. She concentrated with all of her might before snapping her fingers, causing a small explosion to partially destroy the small cans. Though she was successful, she frowned in frustration. Not good enough. I gotta make the explosion bigger. She once again collected the cans and placed them up before positioning herself. While this was happening, a few kids began to walk towards her, wondering what on earth she was doing using her quirk. Hanabi, why are you using your quirk? Reiji asked her. I'm following the training my uncle had me do, she said while trying to concentrate. Bakugo, you're being an idiot right now. You know it's against the rules for us to use our quirks, right? Naoki Minoma said to her. Honestly, you're just like your dad, an idiot hothead that doesn't know how to follow the rules. Shut up, Minoma. I don't care what you think anymore. Your insult to me and my father don't have an effect on me. Besides, I need to get stronger. If the teacher gets me in trouble, then I don't care. Her classmates continued to observe her practicing with her power until Reiji, who had turned his head to the fence outside, noticed a man with a strange-looking helmet and mask staring right at them. He wore a black trench coat and some sort of oxygen tank on his back, almost like some sort of cleaner. Hey guys, is it just me, or is that guy over there looking at us? He said, pointing towards him. Huh, what on earth are you talking about, Pink Lizard? Naoki said to him. Hey, just because my mom is pink and my dad can make his skin hard does not mean I'm a lizard. Okay, well how does the name the blob so? But before Naoki could finish his insult, he felt himself feeling dizzy, unable to balance properly before falling to the ground. Hey, what happened? Hanabi said aloud. One by one, more of the children playing outside began to fall unconscious, with the teachers also succumbing to this condition. The reason? A small cloud of purple gas was surrounding the area, leaving many in a state of sleep. Hanabi, who was covering her mouth subconsciously, looked around in panic as she tried to find a way inside and away from the smoke. But she too would eventually breathe in the gas, falling to the ground as it began to dissipate. Must you release so much gas, Mustard? Said a male voice. You almost put me to sleep. Who cares? All the children are asleep, which means there won't be much resistance for us. Fair enough. Hanabi desperately tried to lift her head up to see who this second individual was, but was unable to get a good look at them, due to her falling asleep. Oh, looks like not everyone is so easy to put to sleep. Look at the blonde girl. She's fighting to stay awake. And here I thought you got stronger with your gas. Oh, shut up. Well, yeah, I don't exactly see you doing anything, Mikomo. Mikomo? Hanbai thought to herself. The second person, now identified as Mikomo, walks up to the girl's body, lifting her up by the shirt collar to meet eye to eye with him. I'm terribly sorry for this, young lady. But the boss doesn't exactly want to take too long. Don't worry, you'll live. Suddenly, a reddish-purple aura began to reveal itself, with Hanabi feeling an attack hitting her brain, causing her to fully succumb to unconsciousness. About a day seemed to pass, as Hanabi, now awaking from the psychic attack, saw herself in a damp, dark room with Reiji, Naoki, as well as a red-haired kid she never met before, who was cowering in the corner. Ah, well, what happened? She muttered. Hanabi Reiji said with an expression of gratitude, thankful that his friend was all right. Oh, finally you're awake, Naoki said with annoyance. Hearing you snore for hours was driving me insane. Guys, where are we? Well, we don't know for sure. All we know is that wherever we are, it seems there's a whole bunch of kids here. Huh, yeah, look over at the corner, he said, pointing to the girl in the corner. That redhead girl's been sitting there crying her eyes out since she woke up. The redhead in question kept on whimpering the words mother, father, and based on what they heard, a mention of someone named Kyo. Though this name flew over the two boys' heads, Hanabi was surprised by the mention of this name, remembering the blonde-haired girl she encountered when she went over to the Kaminari residence with Izuku. Wait a second, you're Mirai, that girl Kyo mentioned. The two boys were puzzled by this. You know her, Hanabi? Not personally, but I've met her friend before. She got up and attempted to approach the girl while putting her hand out. Hey, I know things look bleak right now, but don't worry. We'll be fine, okay? However, instead of the hopeful expression Hanabi was hoping for, The girl merely continued to cry her eyes out, causing the blonde girl to stumble back in confusion. Mother, father, the girl cried out. Save me, please. Hanabi stared at her with a weirded-out expression, all while the two boys stood behind her. See, we told you. Naoki told her. She's such a crybaby. Naoki, lay off her, would ya? I mean, we've been kidnapped. It's the only reasonable idea that anyone our age would do. Well, she could at least tone it down. Seriously, I feel as if my eardrums might burst any minute now. Hanabi turned towards them and began to approach. Okay, let's all just calm down and think. Do you guys have any clue who took us? No, Reiji responded. The only thing we know is that these group of goons keep on coming down to give us a dirty glare. Almost as if they're looking down on us. Because they are you dimwit. Naoki said to him. They're adults. They naturally have to look down on us kids. Do you even know how tall they are? I was talking in a superiority sense. I obviously know adults are taller. Both of you calm down. Arguing with each other isn't going to solve anything. I would have to agree with the girl. You boys ought to be smart about things, especially when in a situation like this, said an unknown voice. The sounds of footsteps began to approach them, where the light in the room would soon reveal a rather tall, voluptuous woman in her early 40s. She wore a dark dress with a neck and top covered in a dark spider cobweb design and has a large brown belt around her waist, while also wearing a large black-brimmed hat adorned with a single red rose. The three children stepped away, while the woman and two more individuals approached the cell. No need to be scared, little ones, she said to them. Back off, Hag, Hanabi yelled out. Or else. Oh, a feisty one. But I'm not here for you. I'm here for the other girl. As she grabbed the hand of Mirai, Hanabi tried to run towards her. Leave her alone, she cried out. But she suddenly stopped in place, as the short, elderly man riding on the back of the large, muscular man had his hand out. It's nice to know that even in your old age, you can still use your quirk gracefully, Yugo. The woman said to him. Deborah, you flatter me. But we should really get going. The master wouldn't want us to wait. Our family needs to grow. Family? Naoki whispered to himself. Very well. Gil, send us over to my chambers. The girl needs her formal induction into Claw. The large man next to her grabbed hold on her, before seemingly disappearing from view, as if utilizing some form of teleportation. The three children saw this, and quickly became worried, not just for the girl taken away, but for themselves. Izuku was walking in a straight line, not acknowledging the other footsteps following him coming from both his parents. He was determined to find out where Hanabi was being kept at. But to do that, he needed to know exactly what happened. Izuku, please, you have to reconsider. You should leave this to the pro-heroes. His mother pleaded. You don't even know where she is. Out of the question. They wouldn't be able to find her. At least I'll be faster at finding them. Izuku, with all due respect, even if you somehow find them, you don't have the proper training nor the power to fight against them. His father interjected. What could you possibly do? Izuku stopped suddenly. What could I possibly do? Well, for one, I could do a whole lot more than you can, father. Toshinori was flabbergasted. What? What would you be able to do? You're just a retired hero with no powers whatsoever. At least I have a better fighting chance than you, old man. As Izuku was about to walk away, his father grabbed him by the arm, weakly trying to stop him from moving. Careful, your arm might fall off if I walk too fast. Young man, as much as it pains me to hear that Hanabi has been taken, I cannot allow you to go. What kind of father would I be if I let my own son walk to his grave? Oh gee whiz, Dad. Certainly picked the right time to give me that fatherly love, huh? What? You expect me to listen to you after saying something so heartfelt? Get out of here with that. Excuse me? Let me ask you something. You ever wonder why I never called you guys after I left home? Ever wonder why it is that I kept my achievements to myself? Because even though you two fed me and put a roof over my head, it was the bare minimum. You never once went out of your way to spend time with me outside of dinner and other things. You never helped me out with my homework. It hurt to know that out of the two of us, Izumi was your top priority. The two parents stumbled slightly, while Izuku ripped his arm out of Toshinori's grasp. Izuku, Toshinori muttered. I get that you were busy with hero work, father, but did you in your years of being the #1 hero think that maybe, just maybe, that I wanted to spend some time with you? I mean, I'm your son. What son wouldn't want to spend time with his father? But even when you were home, all you did was spend time with her. Her, for crying out loud. She made my life a nightmare at school, even when I wasn't doing anything. She would always torment me. The air breezed past them, with Izuku tightly clenching his fist before walking away. That kid, she was the only one who appreciates me. If something were to happen to her, it'll be my fault for not doing something sooner. So whatever concerns you have for me after all of these years, just keep them to yourselves, because I won't stop until I save her. And how are you going to do that, Izuku? It's not like you have any kind of clue as to where they went. A slight glow began to emanate from him, while his hair began to go up, and a bright sonar-like ring began to expand around him. He did not know what it was that he was doing. But what he did find was that whatever this ability was that he was using, he pinged on Hanabi's quirk. Found her. What? Izuku, what was that? Why did you glow green just now? His mother uttered. Mother, father, I'm going to be going now. Maybe you should go back and stay with Mitsuki and Masaru. Hey, why? But as Tashinori tried to grab him again, he felt something off about him. A dark presence that was staring back at him, keeping a barrier between him and his son up. Honey, we should probably listen to what he says. He told Inko. Boo. No buts. Besides, he's right. There's nothing we can do about it. After the two began to walk away, Izuku's eyes were fixated at a specific direction. The growing darkness in his heart manifested itself into an emotion he had not felt for a while. Obsession. I will make whoever took her pay. Progress toward Izuku's explosion, 100% obsession. Without even realizing it, he began to use his quirk to float into the air and into the direction of the compound that Hanabi was being held at. It took him roughly an hour for him to be able to reach it, creating a small crater outside of it, before walking out of it. Progress toward Izuku's explosion, 0%. Shoot, I've run out of juice. But finally I have arrived. He stared at the building in front of him with some annoyance, ready to infiltrate the large structure. But despite having run out of juice at this point in time, it would not be long before he were to utilize this strength again. Izuku stood in front of the large 3-story building with very little patience, as the red light to the camera began to blink. Its lenses zoomed in towards Izuku, with the feed recording his every move. The man known as Giulio Gandini, who was reviewing the footage, began to quickly inform the others inside. Yes, this is Giulio. We have a problem outside. Make sure he is properly dealt with. Understood. One of the lackeys says over the radio. After receiving the orders from Giulio, the lackey went outside to see Izuku standing completely still, his eyes covered by his hair. The lackey approached him. Excuse me, sir. You're going to have to leave the premises. This is private property. But Izuku remained silent. Hey, I'm talking to you. I'm terribly sorry for not answering you. I came here because someone I know is supposedly here, and I'm trying to get them back home. So if you don't mind, could I make a formal inspection to see if she happens to be here? Look, buddy, if you don't want to end up dead, then you better gee. But the lackey suddenly got slammed into the wall as a result of Izuku's telekinesis. He barely changed his expression. Why, thank you for letting me inside. How kind of you. I'll make sure that you get a nice gift from me for doing this, he said as he went inside. Progress toward Izuku's explosion, 13%. Giulio, who was watching this from the camera, once again grabbed his radio and began to communicate to it. Someone get all the Galini family members here this instant. We've got an intruder. After some time, the Galini family collectively gathered in the surveillance room, viewing the footage that was recorded on camera. Well, this isn't good, Camille said aloud. How did a civilian find our hideout? The villain named Paolo said in confusion. More importantly, why do they look so familiar? The man named Simon questioned. You know, now that Simon mentions it, he does seem to resemble someone that we know. A hero, perhaps? Bruno comments. Whoever he is doesn't matter. The point is we need to get rid of him right away, Gil said with an emotionless look on his face. Oh, but do we need to take him out right away? Deborah said to the rest of the family. I mean, he managed to take down that lackey without breaking a sweat. Someone like him would be thrilling to play with. Or more appropriately, break him. I wouldn't be so sure about underestimating him. A young voice called out. The rest of the family turned their heads to see Mikomo, who was playing with what appeared to be a Game Boy on a chair, while Mustard was standing beside him. The reason he is so familiar is because he is the brother of the #1 hero, Izumi Yagi, otherwise known as the Green Empress. He said to them. The Galini family displayed rather mixed emotions at this sudden revelation. Wait a second. He's her brother? Simon said in terror. That's correct, my friend. Though he isn't a pro hero, I would say that in terms of scaling his powers, he could possibly rank in the top 100. Maybe even top 50. Okay, this is bad. This is extremely bad. Relax. He's just one man in an entire facility full of trained villains. There's nothing he could do. Like I said before, Deborah, I wouldn't be underestimating him. I've seen the way he fights, and from the looks of it, it would take every single one of you to take him down. Huh, you're really hyping up his abilities that much? Deborah says in a disrespectful tone. Of course, after all, he was the one to dismantle Hummereyes. This made them even more worried. That man defeated and dismantled Hummereyes? But he looks so frail. Trust me, I saw him fight. His appearance shouldn't be the factor you take into consideration. Tell us, how exactly did he defeat Hummereyes? I'm not telling you guys. Mikumo said to them. You'll have to find out yourselves. Okay, that's it. I am sick and tired of this kid, Simon said in frustration. Just because he is the boss's son doesn't mean that he can just waltz in here and act like a brat. I say we put him in his place. But while Simon tried to convince the rest of the family, a large hand suddenly slammed on the chair, causing the family to stop. Simon, our young friend here, is a guest. I would very much appreciate it if you didn't try to harm him. Besides, I'm sure he could defeat you easily. That, and if harm were to come to him, the boss wouldn't exactly be pleased with us, and probably have us disposed of. So I'd listen to the kid. With a disgruntled look on his face, Simon backed away from Mikumo and Mustard, before leaving the room with Paolo and Bruno. It will be done, Valdo. Plus I have the perfect bait for him to fall into our trap, Deborah said to the man. Izuku walked through the halls of the facility, taking care of individual groups of lackeys, whilst his meters subtly increased after each fight. 20%, 33%, 42%. Each constant intervention caused his powers to start bubbling up again. Great. Looks like my battery is starting to charge up quickly. Good. Now, let's get this over and done with. As he was going through the corridors, he saw the red-headed girl, Mirai, standing aimlessly in the corridor to his left. Not doing anything. Huh. What's a kid doing walking around here? Could she be one of the kidnapped children that cop was talking about? Or is she working with these guys? Either way, I have to be cautious, he thought to himself. As he began to approach the girl, she seemed to be making some sort of twitching movements, while the sounds of crying could be heard from her. Excuse me, our lost little one. Why don't you come with me, and I can get you back to your parents safely? But when the child heard his voice, she turned around, revealing nothing more than a zombie-like posture, creating what seems to be an object made out of fire. Huh, what the? Is that a foam sword made of fire? Izuku cried out. The child began to run towards him, attempting to burn him with the weapon, but Izuku began to run away, trying to use his powers to slow her down slightly. He didn't know what was going on, until eventually, he saw more and more children appear from different corridors. First it was Reiji, then Naoki, Kaio, and many other children, all with the distinctive eyes of someone under a spell. They all began to try and attack Izuku, using their respective quirks in order to try and hurt him. Okay, you little brats. I don't know what these guys promised you, but this is seriously not cool. Do you seriously want your parents to ground you forever because of this? Oh, I'm afraid they can't hear you, Valdo said, walking towards him. The sight of him caused Izuku to grow agitated. I mean, anyone who even resembled his father made him paranoid. But this man, he looked exactly like his father, a revelation that upset him greatly. The other members of the Galini family began to appear, having suddenly spawned in existence as a result of Gil's teleportation quirk. Valdo began to speak. You see, currently they are puppets bending to our will. In exchange, they get to live the lives they've always wanted, including this little one here. Hanabi, who had been standing by Valdo's side, bore the same emotionless expression as the other children who were supposedly under their puppetry. This made Izuku stare in shock. Hanabi. Oh, you know this one. Makes sense, given your relation to her. You know, it surprised me greatly that you were related to the #1 hero, especially since this is the second time this has happened in your family. 2 #1 heroes in one family line. You must truly be blessed to have a father and sister like that. Oh, how I envy you. Trust me, it's not as glamorous as you think, especially with how you're looking. You dare insult the appearance of your father? How your insolence will be no more once I've disposed of you. Get him. The children and the Galini family began to try and attack Izuku, with the latter constructing a barrier around him with his quirk. The very sight of Hanabi being brainwashed in this Way broke the young man, with him feeling himself losing control of his powers. Hanabi, don't worry. I'm going to get you out of this soon. Just hold on. Progress toward Izuku's explosion, 56%. Okay, you guys, I don't know what your deal is with kidnapping children, and I could go on a long tangent at how you guys are basically acting like weirdos for doing so, but seriously, just stop attacking for once. Progress toward Izuku's explosion, 61%. He kept his barrier up and tried to survey his surroundings, quickly using maneuvers such as wall running and paralyzing them with his overwhelming power to stop them. But that's when he was met by the sight of Deborah, who was unlike the other family members, staring at him from a distance. Progress toward Izuku's explosion, 65%. There's no point in fighting them, little man. Your mind and body are mine now, Deborah said to him. She stared deeply into his eyes, causing his pupils to slightly disappear, before Izuku's eyes blinked once more. He found himself in what appeared to be a different place entirely. The atmosphere compared to himself was quite unnaturally bright. It was almost surreal. He heard some noise coming from the other room, where he was met by his entire family. Mother, father, sister, niece, many others he had come to know over the years. They all welcomed him. Happy birthday, son, the mother and father duo said to him. Huh? What's going on? What do you mean, silly? It's your birthday, Inko said to him. Did fighting that villain cause you to forget or something? What villain? Yeah, we teamed up against that chimera villain or whatever his name was, and he was about to kill me, until you swooped in and saved me, Izumi said to him. If it weren't for you, I would be toast. Wouldn't I, Mr. Number One Hero? This made Izuku rather confused. Wait, Number One Hero? Oh, come on, Izuku. Don't tell me you suffered that much brain damage. Anyway, let's forget about that and have some cake. Besides, your son wants your attention. My son? Everything was completely out of order with what Izuku remembered. He didn't have a son. How can he? He doesn't even have a wife, let alone a girlfriend. But the wailing in the background seemed to take him out of his paranoia, as he approached what looked to be a baby with brown hair, green eyes, and a permanent blush on his face, reaching his arms out to him. That is when Deborah began to speak to him without him even knowing. That's it, young man. Learn to let go of the real world. All of this can be yours. You can live the life you truly wanted. The love from family and friends. A son and wife who you'll get to spend the rest of your life with. All of this can be yours. You just need to let go of reality and give me your mind and body. Hello, Izaya, my son, Izuku said with such joy. Izuku was slowly allowing himself to give control over to her. Maybe living in a world like this wasn't going to be so bad. His life was the way that he wanted, the way that it should have been. Him, being a hero, and having a family of his own. In this mental reality Deborah created, years would pass, with Izuku and his child, whom he named Izaya, walking on the beach, enjoying the view of the sun reflecting off of the ocean, before moving forward once more. Come on, Dad, we're going to miss it. Okay, Izaya, just slow down for me, would ya? But as Izuku was going towards his daydream-created son, a voice began to call out to him. But whose voice was it? You might wonder. In truth, Izuku didn't know where this voice was coming from, only that on some random occasions, he would often see a shadow that looked like himself when he was in middle school, a shadow whom communicated a single phrase to him. Fight it. He suddenly fell to his knees, desperately gasping for air, while Izaya was running away from him. Dad, come on, you gotta see, Izaya said before stopping. Dad, are you okay? What's the matter? Why are you? Izuku approached Izaya with a tearful expression on his face. Izaya, when you were born, it was the happiest day of my life. When I saw your beautiful little face, your tiny fingers squeezed my hand so tight, like you never wanted to let go. I watched every step, every struggle. But Izaya, God help me. But I don't think you're real. I don't think any of this is real. Don't say that, Dad. Please, you're scaring me, Izaya said while hugging him. No, I don't want to scare you, Izaya. You are everything I ever wanted in a son. This is everything I ever wanted in a life. But I've got responsibilities, Izaya, and I have to go now. Progress toward Izuku's explosion, 89%. He held his son tightly, while the illusion was slowly beginning to crumble away. First the sea in front of them, then the buildings, sand, and finally, Izaya was beginning to crumble away. Daddy, I promise you, I'll never forget you. As the illusion completely crumbled, His entire body began to glow brightly, all while Deborah desperately tried to maintain control. "Deborah, what's the matter? Get him under your control already," Simon complained. "I can't. Something's happening to him that's causing my powers to not take effect." Progress toward Izuku's explosion, 100%. The bright glowed brighter with each second as his hair began to stand up, and a strange aura began to cover the outlines of his body. His eyes were fixated on the family, all while feeling a sense of rage in his mind. From Deborah controlling Hanabi like a puppet, to the man known as Dark Might irritating him with his appearance, he felt the rage begin to consume him, uncontrolled and unbound. 100% sorrow. The bright glow of Izuku's aura caused the children to suddenly fall to the ground, having Deborah's control over them be broken as a result. Bruce began to speak. "What on earth just happened?" "I don't know, but I don't want to find out," Simon said before summoning monsters. But as the monsters got closer, a bright purple glow brushed past them, instantly vaporizing them. Simon was in shock. Gil teleported behind Izuku, hoping to land a quick and decisive blow on the young man in an attempt to end the battle alongside Yugo, whose use of telekinesis quickly brought several different inanimate objects around Izuku to prevent him from dodging. But rather than dodging, Izuku, with a flick of wrist and a bit of telekinesis, pushed the pair into the wall, instantly knocking them out. "What?" Deborah said out loud. "You know, it's become apparent that you lot have quite the talent at upsetting the wrong people. All I wanted was to find my niece and be out of here. But seeing as how all of your actions led to this outcome, don't blame me for what's about to happen next," he said as he stepped on Dark Might's chest. The gravity around him suddenly began to get heavy, as each of the Galini family members suddenly got pushed to the ground, unable to move. They could defend themselves. Not with their quirks, not with any weapons, not with anything. They were completely at his mercy. "Please don't hurt us," Deborah said in panic. "Don't hurt you? Do you have any idea what you put me through? What you made me give up?" he shouted, while the sound of another voice echoed. "You put me in that reality, twisted my desires to make it into a prison, and now I had to give up everything I cared about just so I could break free. So no, I won't hurt you. I'm going to do much worse. I'm going to finish this and make sure that none of you hurt anyone else again." He began to increase the gravity around them, causing some to half their bones break. This feeling that was going through his body, it was exhilarating. With a flick of his wrist, he could end them in an instant, end these villains and cleanse the world of their evil. Secretly, a part of him was telling him to do it. End them, and get vengeance for the wrongs they've done to him. But something caught his attention, forcing him to stay completely still, as he saw the face of Hanabi, who was completely distraught at what she was seeing. After she had broken free from Deborah's quirk, it had taken a few minutes for her to regain consciousness. When she did, all she felt was a wave of sadness and fear. How could her uncle do this? How could he go so far? Even if it was for the purpose of saving her, she didn't know what to feel. Gratitude, or completely sorrow. Izuku saw this, and felt his heart began to break. The very idea that his niece would be afraid of him because of what he was doing shook his mind. He didn't want her to be afraid, but the whispers kept telling him to live these villains. "No, this isn't right. Even if it's to save her, this isn't the way," he said to himself, struggling to speak. The gravity slightly began to weaken, Dark Might using his alchemy quirk to transmute his legs to push himself up from the ground and boost towards him. Finally, he transmuted his arm, hitting Izuku with a powerful stomach punch, knocking him out. "Uncle Ino. Good. We've dealt with this little pest. Julio, send him to the cell and neutralize his quirk. There's no point in controlling someone like him if his powers can break through Deborah's daydream quirk." "As you wish, Valdo. As for you, Deborah, use your quirk on the children again. We can't have them running around without being under your control once again. It will be done." Hanabi began to run away from the group, as Izuku was being dragged away from the scene and into the cells below. It took some time for Izuku to wake up from his slumber, as he felt his eyes begin to open, all while met by a piercing darkness. He groaned as he got up from the floor, and was met by the gaze of a woman in a long-sleeved dress, complete with a red bow on her chest and head, as well as a pink choker-like accessory. Despite being close to each other, they were separated by a rather thick brick wall. He raised a brow. Forgive me for speaking rudely, but who are you?" The woman took some time to speak, before opening her mouth. "Hello. My name is Anna, Anna Servino. It's nice to meet you. So, this was the end of part 2 of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.